Yeah, we back. Now, today's video is going to be a follow-up video to the ones I did on the Austin Metcalf, Karmelo Anthony story. Go check out my previous videos that I already dropped. I think I dropped like 2 or 3. Go check it out. We broke down the police report. I gave my thoughts on the situation and I gave my commentary. So check those out first before we jump into this one. But anyways, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a fellow content creator, Anthony Brian Logan. And Anthony is what you would call a black conservative. He's a black conservative, media personality, content creator, etc., etc. Now, typically when it comes to black conservatives in the United States or even in Europe, typically when it comes to them, their thoughts are not original, right? They're simply parroting what they heard or the marching orders that were given by their white conservative overlords that dictate the propaganda, that dictate the narrative, right? They are simply a vessel, a vehicle used to promote the narrative given to them by those above them in the hierarchy. Now, in this case, in Austin Metcalf versus Karmelo Anthony, Anthony Brian Logan actually surprised me because to me, it looks like he went off script, because instead of just, running with the propaganda and the narrative that was set from the beginning, he actually sat back and gave a critical analysis of the situation. And his audience is completely furious right now. His audience, man, it's crazy, man. But like I said, when it comes to these black conservative media personalities, you are not here to actually give your original thoughts. You are here to promote whatever narrative is the order of the day. And if you dare go off script, if you dare go against the narrative, then they turn against you immediately. And that's what I'm seeing here right now with Anthony Brian Logan, right? Anyway, take a look up on the screen. Now, just so y'all don't get confused between Karmelo Anthony and Anthony Brian Logan, I'm going to refer to Anthony Brian Logan as ABL because I don't want y'all to get confused. Now, at the top, ABL said this. So Anthony gave Metcalf 2 warnings to not touch him, and he did it anyway. And somebody responded and said, yes, so we killed him. Nice kid, huh? Can you see your own son acting like this? And ABL said, I would tell my son not to be a bully and not pick fights with people. Now, I'm seeing a lot of the white conservatives try to analyze or psychoanalyze Karmelo Anthony, the suspect in this case, but they always try to leave out so much critical information. For example, Karmelo Anthony, 130-pound teenager, standing about 5'9". Austin Metcalf, football player, over 6 feet tall, over 225 pounds, and his brother, the same body type, right? They approached Karmelo. They instigated a verbal altercation. They escalated to a physical altercation, right? But somehow we are psychoanalyzing the character of Karmelo Anthony, the one who was approached and assaulted and aggressed upon. Like I said, man, but I'm surprised by ABL actually taking the position of logic and actually analyzing the situation instead of simply regurgitating whatever propaganda or narrative is being set. Now, take a look up on the screen. ABL went on to say, all you need to do is leave people alone. There was no reason to engage with the kid at all. But this is why I cannot be around some people, because you all do not understand this concept. You want to do whatever you want without any consequences. And that's a fact. And that goes back to my video that I did when I talked about Austin Metcalf and the dangers of how white boys are raised. Like I told you, I've seen it growing up as a teenager, my white associates. There's no respect. They really believe they could do whatever they want, right? Raising a voice against their own mother, getting physically violent with their own father. I've seen it. Some of them really believe they can do whatever they want. Now let's continue. This person said at the top, I find it ridiculous that everyone is discussing their race when there are no indications that race had anything to do with it. And then ABL said this, because Matt Walsh and others had poisoned the well from the beginning, which is why the story went viral. Now that's a fact. And that's why I started covering the story. I wasn't even going to cover this topic because it really, 2 teenagers, they had a physical altercation. It unfortunately ended tragically. I mean, it happens all the time. I wasn't going to cover this story at all. But when I seen certain white conservative bloggers like Matt Walsh, among many others, right, trying to racialize it, trying to politicize it, that's when I jumped in, right? When I seen all these white conservative bloggers start talking about we need to purge black men from civilization, and then I seen them psychoanalyzing young black men and all this nonsense, right? Meanwhile, if you watch my previous videos, you saw how fast it was for me to find several news articles from just last year alone of white men engaging in all type of barbaric behavior, kidnapping little black girls, keeping them shacked up in their basement, chopping up black women, dumping them in the ocean. But you didn't see any of these same white conservative media personalities open their mouth when those news stories were in the headlines. In fact, a lot of those news stories never even hit the national news, right? But they wanted to blow this one story up for their own nefarious reasons. And that's when I jumped on the story. That's when I started covering the story. Now let's continue. ABL said this, The only reason the Track Kid story got any traction is because online grifters promoted it as a way to get money from rage bait by turning it into a white victim, black aggressor situation. No different than the mainstream media did with George Floyd, just with reverse races. Now, this person responded at the top. They said this: just like ABL turned into a woke bitch. Unbelievable. I'm so sick of these fake conservatives, right? You see, like I said, man, as a black conservative, you're not allowed to really give your original thoughts, right? Your authentic thoughts. You have to toe the line. You have to promote the narrative that was given to you. And if you dare go off script, look how fast they disrespect you. But whenever you parrot their narrative, whenever you push their narrative, they gas you up. Oh man, he's one of the good ones. Oh, I like him. You know, he's one of the good blacks, right? But as soon as you decide to simply just go off script and just give your original thoughts and just be original for 2 seconds, now all of a sudden, oh, look at this woke bitch. Like I said, man, that's the reality of being a so-called black conservative in Western civilization. Now, anyway, let's continue. ABL responded to him and said this is what y'all do. You attack someone and then act like the victim when a person retaliates. Now, listen, I was shocked to see ABL take this stance because I've seen all the other black conservatives, man. They got on their knees and was kissing white feet. Man, listen, they were like, yes, white man. Yes, he's a violent savage. The violent black savage is yes. But ABL was like, no, you're not about to outnumber somebody. You outsize somebody, right? 130 pounds to 225 pounds and you over 6 feet tall and I'm 5'9". And nah. Because you see, when it comes to ABL is actually an authentic conservative. I don't think ABL is one of those conservatives that's just doing it for the money. I really think that he lives that conservative lifestyle, you know, family unit, you know, husband and wife, and, you know, you got the gun in the house and, you know, we own land out in Virginia. He's really an American black man, right? He's from Tennessee and Virginia, like the old colonial states, right? He's really an American for real. So I really think that ABL is a true conservative. And I believe that ABL in that situation, he's thinking like, if I was approached and assaulted by guys who outsized me, damn near double my size, right? Due to the fact that ABL is a true conservative, you know, believing in the Second Amendment and all that, ABL would have backed out his firearm and would have blew them guys away. So he's thinking from the perspective of a true conservative, right? You see, the white conservatives that are getting angry at him, they're not thinking it from the perspective of a true conservative. They're thinking it from the perspective of race, because that was the narrative from the beginning. The narrative from the beginning was these violent black savages are out of control, right? And we are under attack from the violent black savages. But unfortunately for them, that narrative ended up crumbling under its own weight because we ended up finding out that the so-called violent savages were the ones who were actually initiating the verbal altercation, escalated into a physical altercation, and on top of that, you decided to outnumber somebody, gang up on somebody when both of you are double his size. So any authentic conservative can look at this case and you don't got to think too hard about it. It's an unfortunate scenario, but we can see who was the aggressor. We can see who was looking for trouble, and we can see who was minding his business, and we can see who stood his ground. Now let's continue. ABL went on to say, do not put your hands on someone if they are not bothering you. Now, isn't it crazy that we have to give these lessons to grown men and women? Like, ABL is lecturing grown men and women, a bunch of white men and women who are like 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and ABL has to talk to them like they're in the first grade. Keep your hands to yourself. And then when you look in the comment section, you actually have people trying to push back against them. Like, ABL is just saying, listen, just respect everybody, keep your hands to yourself, and his audience in the comment section going crazy. Like, they're actually like, no, I don't want to keep my hands to myself. I'm not obligated to keep my hands to myself. And if I do want to violate your personal space, if I do want to assault you, you're only allowed to use a certain amount of force that I authorize for you to use. And even now, with the information that has come out, where we know that Austin and his brother were ganging up on Karmelo, we know the size difference between the two boys. You still have the white conservative crowd still pushing on with the agenda, right? Because in their mind, even if Austin was the aggressor, Karmelo should have allowed himself to be violated. Essentially, you should have allowed yourself to be humiliated. You should have allowed Austin to, teach you a lesson. Get out of my tent. Get out of here, little guy, right? You should have allowed Austin to talk to you and treat you that way. And you should have allowed him to go home, right? That is how the white conservatives really think. I can go around disrespecting anybody I want, talking to anybody any way I want, grabbing people up, pushing them this way and that way, violating all types of freedom and liberties given to them from the Constitution, and I should be allowed to evade the consequences scot-free and go home to my family. But that's not how the real world works. That's not how reality works, right? Just like I should be able to go to the most rundown slum in the world with all my jewelry on and not be assaulted and accosted. But that's not how the real world works. That's not how reality works. So I'm going to put my jewelry away. I'm going to keep it away, locked away in my safe in my room. And I'm not going to go outside into the slums, decked out in all my jewelry, right? Because I'm intelligent. Just like I would not go up to a stranger who I'm double their size and outnumber them and try to punk them and push them out into the rain and physically move them and assault them and then think that I'm going to be allowed to evade the consequences and go home to my family, right? Because I'm aware of the unknown consequences, I'm going to keep my hands to myself. I'm going to mind my business. I'm going to go home to my family, and I'm not going to get into a physical or verbal altercation with somebody I never met because I'm intelligent, and that's why I'm still alive. Now, ABL went on to say, I was always taught to never pick fights with people because in part, there is no way for you to predict or regulate their reaction. People can talk about how much the other person overreacted, but after the smoke clears, that will not bring you back to life. That's a fact. That's a fact. You cannot control how the other person reacts. And I think, honestly, let's have a candid conversation. I think because in American society, I think that because white men and white women have been able to regulate our reactions to their aggression for so long, where they've been able to violate us in the most obscene ways and not suffer the true consequences for their actions. So I think that's been embedded in their spirit. I think that's been embedded into their mentality to where they believe that's how the world should be. Because imagine, brother, you a black man living in the year, 1926 or 1844, right? And imagine all the aggression and the disrespect that our predecessors had to overlook and had to just brush off their shoulder, right? To where now these guys in the modern days damn near encoded into their spirit where they believe they can aggress upon you and you are obligated to just, dust it off your shoulder, right? Just brush it off your shoulder. So now that mentality has been encoded into their spirit because that is how their societies were ran for so long. And these mentalities and thought processes get passed down through the generations. Now, let's continue. ABL went on to say, if I'm minding my business and you approach me and put your hands on me, then it is you who is looking for the fight, not me. Some of y'all cannot grasp that concept, and this is why I cannot be around most people. This person responded and said, the reason why he did not use his hands is because he's a coward, which is what your entire race is built upon, cowardice. Austin would have disintegrated him. So this guy says that the entire black race is a race built on cowardice because Karmelo Anthony, 130 pounds, 5'9", should have went toe-to-toe, mano-a-mano in a boxing match against two guys who are over 6 feet tall, over 225 pounds. And because Karmelo refused to engage with them, mano-a-mano, throw their hands in a boxing match, the entire race, the entire black race in his mind is a race of cowards. But Austin Metcalf and his brother, right? The two guys who are double Karmelo size, they're not cowards for picking on somebody who's 130 pounds, 5'9". You could probably, like I said before, you could probably pick him up and throw him over your back. You could probably throw him with one hand. But the two guys ganging up on somebody tiny, they're not cowards. But Karmelo Anthony taking shelter under the tent, under the pouring rain, he's a coward because he doesn't want to fight somebody who's double his size. Two people double his size. Like I said, man, the illogic in the argument. There's no logic in this argument. Because a tiny guy doesn't want to fight two football players, the entire black race is a race of cowards. My God, this is the level of intelligence we are dealing with. Like I said, man, what are they teaching these young white boys at their house, in their households? What are they teaching them? Like I said, they have no respect for nobody, man. No respect in this culture. No respect for this culture. No respect for the elders. No respect for your fellow citizens. No respect for women and children and animals. No respect for nobody. Now, keep in mind, these are the exact same people that if you stepped on their lawn, they would go and grab their guns. They would go grab their weapons if you step on their lawn, if you step on their yard, right? But meanwhile, they're talking about a tiny guy should have fought two football players. Like I said, man, these guys are not being honest. They're not dealing in good faith, man. Let's continue. This person said, you're better than this, ABL. Now, what did ABL do or say that's so wrong? The only thing ABL said was keep your hands to yourself, respect everybody, just be smart, be intelligent. You can't really predict how the other person is going to react, right? ABL is giving some life lessons that you should have got as children. And they're telling him, oh, you're a monkey. You're better than this. You're from a race of cowards. Like I said, man, I feel bad for y'all black conservative media personalities. You have to pander to these low-life scum like this. Low-life scum. This your audience full of low-life scum. Let's continue. This person said, thank you for showing who you are. Just another black grifter who will side with thugs because you're the same color. How is Karmelo a thug? I'm 130 pounds. These dudes is 220 pounds, 6 feet tall. I'm 5'9", bro. I'm a track star, bro. These dudes are some football, big brolic dudes lifting weights. Why? How am I the thug because they assaulted me and I did not retreat? I'm the thug because I didn't let him humiliate me? My God, yo. Let's continue. This person said, I'm really hoping that somebody hacked your account. Now, listen, ABL did not say anything controversial, man, but just because he is not simply towing the line and pushing the propaganda and running with the narrative, all of a sudden, oh, you must be hacked. You're better than this, ABL. I can't believe you. Oh, you're a monkey. Oh, bro, it's crazy. This person said, oh my God, can we seriously send all the blacks back to Africa? If you're one of the smart blacks, then you are all way too dumb to live in white society. Go dance around naked, hiding from the lions in the mud huts. This person said, get some sleep. You're not thinking rationally right now. I would not make a video on this story if I were you. You are not in your right mind right now. Now, like I said, ABL did not say anything controversial. He said something that really should be common sense. But because he said that, all of a sudden, this guy telling him, get some sleep. You're not thinking rationally. You're not in your right mind. You're going crazy, right? Because as a black conservative, you're supposed to be my talking head. You're supposed to be basically my sock puppet, right? You're supposed to push my narrative with a black face. So because you're not pushing my narrative with a black face, this guy said, get some sleep. You're not in your right mind. The disrespect. See, that's why when it comes to me, when it comes to my content, I only want to target my people. I only make content for my people. I only talk to my people. I don't even talk to other groups, right? Now, I know I got other groups, other people that follow me, other, different nationalities, but my content, my channel is for black men and women. That's it. When I make my videos, I act like nobody else is in the audience because I don't even give a fuck what y'all got going on. I don't even care what y'all think. Let's continue. This person said at the top, it would be nice if we could just have a country for blacks and a country for whites. I don't know why blacks need to live around us. And then ABL responded and said, your ancestors imported us from Africa to live right next to you for 250 years, yet you ask us why we need to live around you. Oh, damn. ABL get into his bag. ABL get into his black nationalist bag. Let's continue. The person responded at the top and they said this. My ancestors are not Jewish, but there is literally nothing preventing you from founding a country in Africa and not letting any white people in. Why would you choose to live around your former slave masters? And then ABL responded and said, I've been here longer than you, since the original Virginia, before it became West Virginia. Where are you from? Poor European refugees? I'm not going anywhere. This is my country. Now, time out. Time out. Now, ABL said, listen, watch who you talking to. Watch your mouth, right? ABL said, listen, I'm really a son of the soil, right? I'm really from here, right? I've been here since the British colonies, right? You a damn European refugee. You just got here yesterday. Watch your damn mouth. Now, listen, shout out to ABL. I mean, that's a fact. A lot of these so-called white conservatives, you're not even a real white American for real. You just got here the other day. You're not from the founding fathers. You're not from the original stock of the white American, the white colonist who was here back in 1699. You're not even from here for real. You a damn European migrant. You a dusty European booty scratcher from Europe. You a European refugee. Watch your damn mouth when you're talking to the black man, bro. You a damn migrant, bro. You're not from original American stock. Man, these dudes, we got to really start putting some of these white conservatives in check, man. You just got here back in like 1934. Watch your damn mouth, bro. And some of these so-called white conservatives, they're not even, some of them is like Mexicans and Latinos as well. And, Indians and Asians. A lot of these conservatives is like minorities as well, trying to kiss white ass, right? So like I said, man, ABL is well within his rights to, flex his muscle on y'all because ABL is a real American black man. He's a real authentic American black man. Anyway, let's continue. ABL went on to say, this is why I cannot be around certain people. They will pick a fight with you and then call the police when you do something to them. Leave people alone and you can avoid conflict. We can have an argument about the knife, but I've seen people die from one punch. This person responded and said, exactly. Punches kill too. This is why the fake outrages get it to me. Wait till all the facts come out. Was he provoked? Was it self-defense? Was it bullying gone wrong? Nobody knows at this point. And I agree. Nobody knows. That's why I was so shocked and taken aback when I seen immediately, even before the facts came out, before the arrest report came out, before any investigation was conducted, you already had all the white conservative bloggers trying to frame a narrative before they even had the narrative. And then unfortunately for them, it blew up in their face. Unfortunately for them, it blew up in their face. It is what it is, man. An unfortunate situation, but a learning lesson can be extracted from all this. right? A teachable moment can be extracted from all this, right? Lessons that we should have been taught as children. You know, sometimes, you know, we can take the hardship or maybe the trials and tribulations of others and take those lessons and apply them to our daily lives. Now, like I said, when it comes to the white conservatives, there's really no logic with them. There's no rationalizing with them, because in their mind, because they've been accustomed to be able to disrespect us for so long with no consequences, you know, it's going to take some time for them to get adjusted to actually operating and engaging with us as human beings. So, you know, like I said, it's going to take a while to decode all of that programming that's been embedded in the society for so long. And unfortunately, you know, it's just unfortunate. But anyways, it's your boy Nevercard. That's Celine back in the Billy. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel. Album out now when I'm gone. Peace. The Hell 1816.